I'm Lisa Thie, the Data for Good sector lead at Launch Consulting. I recently had the honor of speaking at the World AI Cannes Festival, where AI innovators and enthusiasts come together to bring a world of imagination to life. This year's speakers are leveraging AI to create a better world, with emerging technologies capable of solving our greatest global challenges. Join me as I speak with some of the innovators who are forging this future. This is Navigating Abroad. In this episode, I'm talking to Darlington Akogo, a natural disruptor on a mission to democratize global healthcare with the help of machine learning. Driven by relentless optimism and ingenuity, Darlington's research is reshaping global agriculture and healthcare to meet the needs of the 21st century. Hi, Darlington. Do you mind telling me a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, and how you think it influences where you are today?
Sure. So I grew up in Ghana. I grew up all over Ghana, actually. So growing up, I was all over the place, but there were two things that I think I really enjoyed. So I enjoyed drawing. Anything that has to do with art, I was into. But I also enjoyed destroying things. So, and especially electronic devices. I think I blew up a couple of TVs, almost burned down the house once, and actually successfully burned down part of the house later on. So, so yeah, with those two passions, I think over the years I learned a better way to harness them. And so that brought me into technology, and also as a side thing, I actually went into design and did a bit of photography, creative direction, music, and a number of stuff. So yeah, grew up in Ghana and then moved to Italy when I was in my late teens. That was very interesting, but it kind of gave me a good perspective. I was seeing two entirely different continents, different cultures, different people. But then, so one of the things that was super insightful was I saw in Ghana, when it came to certain things like healthcare, right? With most people that are not in Ghana or not in Africa, they will assume that most people don't have access to healthcare, right? But that's actually not the case. It's that to have access to high quality healthcare, you have to be wealthy.
So there's a class system involved.
Exactly.
Yeah, I would argue being in America, I'm really mindful of staying employed in order to have access to high quality healthcare because I have some pre-existing conditions. So it sounds like a fairly universal problem that we address as a human race.
Exactly. But then, so the interesting thing is that if you juxtapose, let's say, because yes, America is quite similar in that sense, you have serious issues like class divide when it comes to healthcare because the insurances are expensive and everything. But in Europe, it's quite the opposite. They've made it so that the base form, the healthcare that everyone have access to, is quite high quality.
Yes.
So living in Italy, traveling to countries like Denmark and Germany and seeing that a lot of people have access to affordable and mostly free quality healthcare, it made me realize that on one hand, it is not okay for people to die or get sick or their whole life ruined because they had some conditions and they couldn't afford to go to the hospital or the clinic.
It should be a basic human right.
Exactly.
And in many places in Europe, that's the case.
Exactly.
Yeah. So in terms of accessible healthcare in Ghana, how are you leveraging technology to give more accessibility to people?
Yeah, I think in technology, or just based on the people that came before us, there's basically a sense of optimism. With that sort of inspiration, I felt, why not? Why can't we use technology to address healthcare in Africa and build healthcare that is comparable or even better than what is in Europe? So with that, I started looking at different technology. So on one hand, I wanted to understand the exact problems that were affecting African healthcare. Then I realized that, okay, diagnosis was one of those key problems. So we don't have a culture of diagnosis because they are really expensive and everything. Then the other one was to look at what technology will be best to address diagnosis. And so you quickly run into an issue because Healthcare is much more dynamic. Diagnosis is much more dynamic. You cannot write rules for it. So around that time, this is around like 2014, 15. This is when deep learning was also taking steam, because for years people ignored it, was not good enough. I think I came across some few resources that mentioned that, deep learning can be used to solve computer vision problems and challenging problems.
That was the time frame I got more experience with it as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I was really interested in taking some of the innovations that were happening in the healthcare system and reapplying those to improve outcomes for marginalized women and children globally. And so it was, if we can use this technology to identify better treatment protocols, could we use this to find missing people? Could we use this to identify link analysis for traffickers that are, organizing crime? And so I can relate to that desire to cross-pollinate industries and to take some of the best thinking in one place and apply it to another place that could have the impact of scale of making it more democratized for people that maybe can't afford to pay the penalty. So you have this Renaissance approach to how you do things. It's an element of creativity, an element of design, an element of taking the technology and being a lifelong learner. What do you think it is about your personality or temperament that makes you that perfect founder combo?
Okay, I would say, to be honest, it's probably a mixture of good habits and bad habits. But they'll say there's some beauty to madness. So maybe the negative, there's still some beauty to it. So on the positive side, I think for me, my word is important to me, which is that if I say I care about something and I want to address a problem, I would do whatever it takes to get that solved.
Integrity.
Integrity, yes. But then there's also not integrity to just others, but to yourself. So if you tell yourself in your own head that, I think this problem, I should work on it, staying dedicated to that problem, because always when you pick up a problem, you are ignorant or naive to fully understand how big of a problem it is.
Or you'd know to run the other way, right?
Exactly. and I think for founders, sometimes that is a good thing.
Yes.
It takes ignorance to jump head first into some huge problem, because if you knew, you run the other way. But then if you are also the kind of person that has integrity, commitment, dedication, once you get to see the full picture that, damn, this is way tougher than I imagined, you don't run away. You realize that, no, you made a commitment, so now you have to stick to it.
Boundaries are very challenging when you are mission driven, when you are the leader, and when you are setting the standard for your teams.
It took a toll on me in all aspects of my life. I literally did not have a personal life. I had to sacrifice my health, my well-being, just to make sure that this thing works and we get it running and then actually help people. So
any strength can be overused to become a weakness, and I think we suffer from the same affliction of passion and persistence. And that's what it takes to redefine the rules of the world. So I'm excited to meet somebody of your caliber that is applying so much to this problem, but I do respect that it's a learning curve to figure out where to stop too, right?
Oh, yes.
Because this is a marathon, not a sprint.
Yes.
And
yes.
You've taken AI in a lot of places in the truest capacity of it being a tool, not a solution. Can you share with us some of the things you've done in the agricultural landscape and what drew you into that space, or other areas you've chosen to apply it?
Yeah. So kind of like the point you made earlier, the same technologies that could be used to identify treatment could be used to fight against trafficking and everything. It's the same thing. So the same techniques for deep learning, machine learning, computer vision, for example. If you just change the data set, the images, you're solving an entirely different problem. So realizing that, and also healthcare and agriculture are vastly different. So in agriculture, there are also a lot of challenges that exist in Africa and globally: food shortage, food insecurity. And so after working within the space, trying to understand, engaging different ecosystems, it became clear that disease and pests affected farmers a lot. So on average, farmers lose about 50% of their yield due to disease and pests. Yeah. And so having the expertise to identify disease and pests falls within the region of crop pathology. So you have agricultural scientists that specialize in this, but you can't have them accessible the whole time.
Yes.
So the goal was that let's build an AI system that automates this. So we got some data sets on disease and pests, built an AI system, and then rolled it out. And in that process, we identify a number of other things. So there's this whole space that is called high throughput phenotyping, where you are not only looking at plants as they are on the field, the farmers growing and harvesting and then selling, but you're looking at the step before, which is the creation of new breeds or more efficient, more effective hybrids. So we started working with plant breeders. We flew drones, collected data, did a lot of geospatial analysis, used AI to be able to help them create more effective breeds. So for example, one of our partners created a maize that is about 10 times more or has 10 times higher yield than the traditional maize that is used in Ghana.
Wow.
So those are some of the things that we've done. So far, we've worked on a bunch of crops, worked with different partners. Last year, for example, with one of our partners, Lacuna Fund. So Lacuna Fund is basically a consortium between Rockefeller Foundation, IDRC, Google, and then GIZ. And so with them and then some additional partners from different countries, we put together a data set that is currently the largest data set of disease and pests in the world. Over 200,000 images cutting across multiple crops, multiple diseases. And so with this data set, we've built AI systems that automate the process of identifying diseases.
It's a really, it does sound like you start with that founder's mindset of coming into something with optimism. And then you go, oh my gosh, it's bigger than I thought. And then you start tackling the lowest hanging fruit of how can you improve the most outcomes, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we all learn way more from our failures than our successes. Mm-hmm. And so is there anything you would like to share in terms of wisdom to help people from preventing wasting time in areas that are less fruitful from your experience?
So, as far as failures, there's a lot of lesson. I mean, even with what we were talking about earlier, when you don't know the space and you hop into it, you have to learn a lot of things. So I mentioned that there's a huge difference between healthcare and agriculture. In agriculture, you can build an AI system and directly go to the field and go and use it. You can give it to farmers when you have 80% accuracy. If they make a mistake, they misdiagnose one leaf, the effect of that is the ramifications are not that great. In healthcare, you are not even allowed to just walk into a clinic and say, use my AI system.
Very different precision and recall
Yes.
requirements. Yes.
You need the level of consistent data you need to collect in healthcare, prevent it to regulatory bodies. You need to do all this before you get to work within it. And I think that optimism, from tech founders especially, that optimism, when you enter the healthcare, you need to develop some humility. You need to develop some patience. You need to be able to sit back and say, okay, let's do the whole process of rigorous testing. If you are a tech founder, even with so much experience, regardless of where your experience is coming from, nothing prepares you for being the founder, CEO of a startup.
And so you really have to learn how to pull the best of yourself and surround yourself also with people that complement your skill set, not replicate it.
Exactly. But also so there are so on one hand, you don't have the answers to a lot of questions, but sometimes you don't even have the questions. So some of the things that I had to, because when I started, I remember someone asking, why don't you get development funds to help you push what you're trying to do? And then I was like, oh, we don't need research funds. Like, we can just do this and this happens. Like, I was totally wrong about that. Because if you're doing AI for health, a lot of the early stuff is like very, very fundamental research.
Absolutely.
And if you want to go to a VC at that point, you have to weigh the
trade-offs.
Exactly.
It's a very risky investment, and you're going to get the terms of a very risky investment.
Exactly. And so having to learn that, and then even once we decided that we wanted to go and get access to some fund, what kind of fund do we have to get access to? I remember when I saw some funding calls and everything, and then 1 hour before the deadline, I type in a bunch of answers and in my head, hey, our technology is cool. Then someone gets the fund, you're like, wait, but our technology is way better than theirs. Why did they give them the fund and they didn't give it to us? It's because I knew nothing about how to actually write most of this. So as you said, right, if you surround yourself with the people that have the answers, if you let them guide you and everything, I mean, we went from having access to no funding to having access to just the right amount of funding we needed to push the work we're doing, to now, I mean, having access to a lot of funding agencies, even VCs and everything. So there's a lot of process.
People love to join a successful party. So kudos to you to making it through those milestones.
Thank you.
That is, just when you get good at your stage, it's time to go to the next one, right?
Exactly. But then since we are talking about failure, I want to paint like a very grim picture. I can remember very vividly some years ago, I went on a trip and then I found out that, I won't get into details about this, but basically someone stole what we're working on and then raised funding with it. And I felt so horrible. I felt so shitty. That's accurate.
Let's be real.
I felt so shitty. Exactly. But I felt shitty not because they only took what we worked on. I felt shitty because it's like, okay, I couldn't raise funding and someone took what we're working on and raised funding for it. Like, I failed my team. And I felt so shitty that day. I can remember vividly, like I was in Brazil, a very beautiful place. I was supposed to enjoy it and I felt so shitty that, like, it was horrible. So I said, no, whatever it takes, I need to figure out how to get the necessary fund to make sure we can sustainably do the work you're doing, keep the lights on, and then go from there to generating revenue and everything. I need to get serious about it. It's not just the cool tech.
Yes.
You need to build the structure, the machine that keeps things going.
I have always found that it's much easier for me to accept failure as a learning lesson when it only affects me. And as a leader, when you know that you have a team dependent on you, it's really hard to let go of that self-talk that maybe isn't so kind and not so productive, right? So how do you find a way to pick yourself back up after experiencing that level of disruption in your leadership journey?
Yeah, I think, so for me, it goes back to the point of being mission oriented. And that has helped me both as a founder, but also in my personal life, that no matter what I'm struggling with, I've basically sent myself on a mission, and no matter what, I need to get back on that mission. So if I feel like I've failed my team by not being able to raise funding to keep the lights on and keep research, development going on, I need to learn it no matter what it takes.
Okay.
So if I need to buy all the books, I bought the books. If I need to go speak to those who have done it, speak to them. If I need to watch an accumulation of like 50 hours of founders talking about how they did it and everything, do whatever it takes.
People quit before that transition happens. And I think that's going to be what it takes for the next generation of innovators and founders and people that are going to push us past just making money with technology to making history with technology, protecting legacies, protecting health, protecting societies. Because it's much easier to just make things that drive advertising or other applications, right? That have incubated some of this capabilities. Yeah. What are some of the accomplishments that you look back on and you're feel the most proud of that make it all worth it?
Yeah. I mean, so looking at how we started from just a single person on a computer in winter to now having a team, and even the fact that we started from Ghana, which I believe in the early days, a lot of people were not expecting any AI from. And we started much earlier than even some people in the US and Europe, and then going from there to having a lot of projects that are international. We've worked with United Nations World Health Organization and then International Telecommunication Union. So right now there's a lot of things that are going on, and we are perfecting the structure, but there's a lot more work ahead.
Yes.
Like you said earlier, once you clear off one stage, it's on to the next stage, then on to the next stage. So that has been really exciting. currently our goal, so basically the whole company, we are operating on 3 numbers. In 3 years, we want to reach 100 million diagnoses, 10 million plant assessments, and then on the numerical valuation part, we want to become a unicorn, so $1 billion startup. Yeah, the mission is still ongoing.
I think you are well on your way to all 3 of your goals. For people that want to follow your journey, where are the best ways to keep tabs on what you're doing and help contribute to it?
Okay, I mean, you can visit our website, minoHealth.org, caraagro.com. We are active on social media too as well, so Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, which one am I forgetting? Instagram.
Sure.
We are going to get a bit more active over there, so you can follow those. We have some resources on YouTube. Me personally, if you want to follow me, you can find me on those platforms, but depending on what platform you go, you find whatever you're looking for. If you want a serious version of me, probably stick to LinkedIn, because if you come to Facebook or Instagram and you see some posts, don't judge me for it.
I really appreciate you sharing a broader point of view, because I think everybody curates so much these days that people can't even see themselves in others anymore. And I think you're really opening up the mindset that you don't have to be one thing to be influential.
Yeah.
And I'm really enjoyed getting to know you today. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you too. I enjoyed the conversation.
Cheers.
Cheers.